For decades, the leadership playbook was pretty consistent. You earned your stripes, you built intuition over time, and you climbed a hierarchy that gave you the authority to decide. But that playbook is getting rewritten in real time. Because we've entered what a lot of people call the intelligence economy, where insight is generated continuously, decisions happen faster, and the line between human thinking and machine thinking gets blurry. In this world, leaders don't just manage people. They manage intelligence. They don't just set direction, they orchestrate signals. And they don't just rely on experience. They learn to collaborate with AI systems that can surface patterns, test options, and challenge assumptions at a speed no human can match. So today, we're digging into the human-AI leadership model. What it is, why it's emerging now, and what leaders need to develop over the next decade to stay effective. We've got a global panel with perspectives spanning strategy, transformation, governance, ethics, and the future of work. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the B.I channel, where data meets decisions. I'm Soren Hale. This episode isn't about the newest tool or the latest model release. It's about something more foundational, how leadership itself is being redefined by the relationship between humans and AI. Joining me today, Nakhal Makima, B.I strategist and founder of the B.I channel. Dr. Lian Zhou, an Asia-Pacific AI transformation expert who's worked with organizations scaling AI into real operational decision-making. Maria Alvarez, a data governance leader working across LATAM on trust, adoption, and enterprise alignment. Jonas Richter, a European specialist in compliance and data ethics. And Aidan Vox, AI futurist and emerging tech analyst tracking where this all goes next. All right, let's start with the why. Why does leadership have to evolve at all? Why can't we just bolt AI onto the organization and keep leadership as is? Nakhal, I'll start with you.
Because the leader is no longer the primary source of insight. Historically, leadership depended on being the person with the most context, the most experience, the best gut feel. Now you've got AI co-pilots, forecasting engines, anomaly detection, and even autonomous systems generating quality signals constantly. So if a leader's identity is tied to, "I'm the one who knows," they'll struggle. The new requirement is, "I'm the one who can connect the right signals to the right decisions."
That's a big shift, from being the source of truth to being the conductor. Maria, what's your angle on why leadership has to change?
Trust. If people don't trust the data, they won't trust the AI. And if they don't trust the AI, they'll work around it. Leaders are now responsible for building trust across teams, across functions, and often across borders. In LATAM, I see this all the time. A company buys sophisticated analytics, but adoption is low because employees fear surveillance, or the data quality is inconsistent, or no one knows who is accountable. Leadership has to become trust-building and governance-aware, not just performance-driven.
So leadership becomes social architecture as much as strategy. Dr. Zhou, what's driving evolution where you work?
Speed and volatility. Many organizations in APAC are operating in environments where customer behavior, logistics conditions, and competitive moves change daily, sometimes hourly. AI makes it possible to react quickly, but only if leaders can make decisions in near real time. That means leaders need to be comfortable with decisions made on live intelligence, not quarterly reports. They have to accept that the decision cycle compresses dramatically, and still maintain quality judgment.
Jonas, if speed is one force, ethics is another. Why must leadership evolve from your lens?
Because AI introduces a new category of risk, decisions that scale instantly. When a model is wrong, it can be wrong at volume. When a process is biased, it can be biased systematically. Leaders can't delegate ethical responsibility to the technical team. In Europe, regulatory pressure makes this visible, but even beyond regulation, you need ethical alignment. Leaders must ensure that what the machine optimizes is consistent with human values, not just business metrics.
Aidan, bring it home for us. What's the underlying reason leadership needs to evolve?
Because the job is shifting from managing people to orchestrating intelligence. The leader used to be the central processor. Now the leader is more like a system designer, coordinating humans, models, data pipelines, tools, and decision rights. And in that shift, the competitive advantage becomes Who can build the most effective human-machine decision loop? That's leadership now.
So if I'm hearing you all correctly, leadership is moving from authority toward intelligence fluency. Not just being in charge, but being capable of making sense of a world where intelligence is everywhere. Let's define what that actually looks like. We're calling it the Human AI Leadership Model, and we're going to break it into 5 competencies. I want practical definitions, not buzzwords. Competency number 1, intelligence orchestration. Now, Kel, what does that mean in practice?
It means the leader understands the whole decision system, not just their department. They know where the data comes from, what it represents, what the AI can and cannot infer, and where human judgment adds value. Think about a pricing decision. It's not just the model output. It's supply constraints, brand strategy, customer trust, regulatory boundaries, and operational capacity. Orchestration is making sure data, AI, people, and processes act as one coordinated mechanism.
So the leader's job becomes design the loop, monitor the loop, improve the loop. Jonas, competency 2, ethical judgment. How do we talk about this without making it sound like a compliance checklist?
Ethical judgment is the ability to ask better questions before harm happens. What could go wrong? Who bears the cost if the model is wrong? What groups might be impacted unevenly? Are we measuring the right outcomes, or just the easiest outcomes? And importantly, leaders must understand that ethics is not only about intention. It's about impact. A system can be built with good intentions and still create discrimination or exclusion. Ethical judgment is leadership competency because the responsibility is organizational, not technical.
Competency 3, cognitive flexibility. Dr. Zhou, what does that look like for leaders who are used to stable plans and fixed roadmaps?
It looks like a leader who can update their mental model quickly. New data arrives, a model performance changes, a competitor introduces a new approach, and the leader can absorb it without becoming defensive. Cognitive flexibility is also about being comfortable with iteration. Instead of pretending certainty, leaders learn to run experiments, revise assumptions, and make the best decision with what is known today while preparing for what may be known tomorrow.
Competency 4, collaborative intelligence. Maria, this is the one people often underestimate. What does it mean to build teams where humans and AI operate together?
It starts with roles and clarity. You need teams to understand what is the AI responsible for, and what are humans responsible for. If a model recommends a credit decision, who reviews it, who can override it, and who is accountable if it goes wrong. Collaborative intelligence also means culture. People need psychological safety to question model outputs, and they need education to interpret them. Leaders must pair adoption with trust, and trust with governance, otherwise collaboration becomes either blind faith or complete rejection.
Competency 5, simulation literacy. Aiden, I love this term because it's both futuristic and immediately useful. What are we really saying here?
We're saying leaders should be able to test decisions before they commit. Simulation literacy is the ability to use scenario engines, digital twins, and forecasting models to explore consequences. Instead of arguing in a meeting based on who talks best, you can ask, what happens if we raise prices 3%? What happens if a supplier fails? What happens if demand shifts regions? A leader doesn't have to build a simulation, but they must know how to ask for it, how to interpret it, and how to recognize when it's misleading.
So the 5 competencies are intelligence orchestration, ethical judgment, cognitive flexibility, collaborative intelligence, and simulation literacy. If you're listening right now and thinking, that's a lot, you're not wrong. But the point isn't to become a data scientist. It's to become a leader who can operate in a world shaped by continuous machine-generated insight. Now let's go global. Because leadership evolution doesn't look identical everywhere. It's shaped by regulation, market maturity, infrastructure, and culture. Dr. Zhou, what are you seeing across APAC?
A pattern I see is leaders becoming real-time strategists. They're building operating models where decisions are informed by live dashboards, streaming data, and near-instant feedback loops. But the hard part is discipline. When you can see everything in real time, you can also overreact in real time. So APAC leaders are learning to balance speed with stability, when to act immediately and when to let the system run.
Maria Latam?
Trust architects. Many organizations are still standardizing data, modernizing platforms, and trying to coordinate across complex realities. Leaders become the ones who align stakeholders, define governance, and build confidence so that AI can actually be used. In practice, that means making data ownership real, setting clear policies, and communicating transparently. People will accept AI and workflows when they feel the process is fair and the outcomes are explainable.
Jonas, Europe is often described as more cautious. What's the leadership identity shift there?
Ethical stewards. European leaders are increasingly expected to prove responsibility, not just promise it. It's about traceability, documentation, risk controls, and governance structures that hold up under scrutiny. And beyond regulation, there's a cultural expectation that technology should serve society. That means leaders spend significant time shaping principles, oversight, and accountability so innovation doesn't outpace trust.
Aiden, you track North America a lot. What's the pattern you see?
Innovation commanders. There's a strong push to be first, to scale quickly, and to differentiate through new capabilities. Leaders are often evaluated on how effectively they can turn AI into competitive advantage. The risk is that speed can outrun governance. But the best leaders I see are pairing aggressive experimentation with equally strong guardrails, because they know a high-profile failure can erase years of progress.
Nakel, bring in Africa. What's distinct there?
Leapfrog leadership. In many contexts, you don't have the same legacy systems or deeply embedded ways of doing things. That can actually be an advantage. Leaders can adopt modern decision models without undoing decades of old infrastructure. The opportunity is huge, building intelligence-first operations. The challenge is ensuring access to quality data, developing talent, and designing solutions that fit local realities instead of copying approaches that assume different constraints.
So the destination is similar, but the paths differ. Real-time strategists, trust architects, ethical stewards, innovation commanders, leapfrog leaders. That's helpful because it reminds us there isn't one universal leadership template, but there is a universal shift. Let's talk power dynamics, because whenever intelligence changes, power changes. Who gets heard? Who gets to decide? Who is accountable? Nakel, you said earlier the leader isn't the sole source of insight anymore. How does that affect power?
Power moves from hierarchy to access. If some teams have better data, better tools, better models, they can influence decisions more effectively than teams with higher titles but weaker intelligence. That can be good because it rewards evidence. But it can also create new inequalities inside an organization if intelligence capabilities are uneven. Leaders must democratize access to insights, not centralize it.
Maria, what's the power shift you see?
Titles matter less when transparency matters more. If decision logic is visible, if data lineage is clear, if model performance is measured openly, then influence comes from credibility and clarity. But transparency also raises the bar on leadership. You can't hide behind vague reasoning. People will ask, based on what data? Based on what assumptions? Who signed off? That changes how leaders communicate and how they earn trust.
Jonas, accountability.
Power shifts from control to accountability. In older models, leaders could control information flow. In AI-driven models, information is abundant, but the real question is, who is responsible for outcomes? If a model makes a harmful recommendation, it's not enough to say, the system did it. Leaders need governance that assigns accountability clearly, and they need the courage to pause or roll back systems when the risk is unacceptable.
Dr. Zhou, you mentioned adaptability. How does that play into power?
Historically, experience carried authority. Now adaptability carries authority. The leader who can learn faster, integrate new signals, and guide teams through change becomes more effective than the leader who only relies on past patterns. And that can be uncomfortable, because it challenges seniority norms. But it's also energizing. It allows new leaders to emerge based on capability, not tenure.
Aiden, your version was memorable, power shifts from intuition to simulation. Say more.
When simulation becomes common, the debate changes. Instead of, "I feel this will happen," you get, "Let's test it." The person who can frame the right scenarios and interpret trade-offs gains influence. But we should be careful. Simulation can create false confidence if the model of the world is incomplete. Leadership power, in the best case, comes from blending simulation with judgment, not replacing judgment.
That's the thread I keep hearing. The leader isn't replaced. The leader is reshaped. Which brings us to the psychological shift leaders have to make. This part is personal, because it's not just skills, it's identity.
Nakel, what's the internal change you think leaders struggle with most? Letting go of being the smartest person in the room. A lot of leaders built their careers on expertise. AI challenges that because it can surface insights that contradict a leader's intuition. The new status symbol isn't having all the answers. It's asking the best questions and creating an environment where truth can surface quickly, even when it's inconvenient.
Maria, what psychological shift would you highlight?
Vulnerability. Leaders have to be comfortable saying, "I don't know yet," and then building a process to find out responsibly. In governance work, forcing certainty too early is dangerous. It leads to rushed models and broken trust. When leaders model learning, the organization follows. When leaders pretend they understand everything, teams stop asking questions, and that's when bad systems slip through.
Jonas, where does AI challenge leaders internally?
It challenges their assumptions. And not gently. AI can reveal patterns that imply uncomfortable truths, operational shortcuts, biased processes, unequal outcomes. Leaders must be willing to confront what the data suggests without taking it as a personal attack. At the same time, they can't defer moral responsibility to the model. A leader must be open-minded and firm, open to learning, firm on values.
Dr. Zhou, you've led transformations where leaders need to trust systems but not surrender to them. How do you describe that mental balance?
Trust with oversight. Leaders need to trust the system enough to use it, but maintain the discipline to validate it. They need to understand what good performance means, what drift looks like, and what human checks are required. The psychological shift is moving from control to stewardship. You're not controlling every decision, you're stewarding a decision ecosystem.
Aiden, last word on the internal shift. What does co-thinking really require?
Comfort with partnership. Some leaders treat AI like a tool, which is fine, but limited. Co-thinking means you let the system propose options you didn't consider, and you treat that as collaboration rather than competition. It also requires humility about the future. The models will change. The interfaces will change. The best leaders won't anchor on one system. They'll anchor on the capability to evolve alongside the systems.
So we've defined the model, explored global differences, and named the identity shifts. Now let's get practical. How do organizations actually develop human AI leaders? Not in theory. What's the roadmap? Nakel, give us a starting point that doesn't require a complete reinvention of leadership training.
Decision literacy. Teach leaders how decisions are made in their organization today. What data feeds them, where bottlenecks are, what assumptions are baked in, and where AI could help or hurt. If leaders can map decision flows, they can improve them. Without that, AI becomes a shiny layer on top of broken processes.
Maria, what should be embedded into leadership programs from the start?
Governance awareness. Not so leaders can write policies, but so they understand accountability, data ownership, privacy concepts, and what trust by design looks like. A simple test: can a leader explain where the data comes from, who can change it, who audits it, and how it's protected? If not, AI adoption will always be fragile.
Jonas, from your side, what has to become a core capability?
Ethical intelligence. Leaders should be trained to spot ethical risk the same way they spot financial risk. They need frameworks for evaluating fairness, explainability, and proportionality, and they need escalation paths when something feels off. And importantly, reward leaders for responsible behavior, not just rapid deployment. Culture follows incentives.
Dr. Zhou, how do you accelerate this learning curve?
Expose leaders to real-time data environments. Put them in simulations of live operations, fluctuating demand, supply disruptions, customer churn signals. Let them practice making decisions with streaming intelligence. It's like training pilots. You don't wait for a crisis to learn how the instruments work. You train under realistic conditions so the leader builds instinct for human-AI decision cycles.
Aiden, what's your most tactical recommendation?
Give leaders AI co-pilots early. Adoption isn't a memo, it's experience. If leaders personally use co-pilots for drafting, analysis, scenario exploration, and meeting synthesis, they'll understand strengths and limits. But do it with guardrails. Teach them what not to share, how to verify outputs, and how to avoid over-trusting. The goal is familiarity plus judgment.
I want to underline something for listeners. None of this requires leaders to become engineers. It requires leaders to become fluent enough to steer, govern, and collaborate in an intelligence-rich environment. It's leadership expanded, not leadership replaced. Before we close, I want to ask each of you for one sentence. If a leader is listening right now and they remember only one thing, what should it be? Not Cal.
Stop trying to be the answer and become the architect of better decisions.
Maria.
If you don't build trust in data and AI, you don't build adoption, and nothing scales.
Dr. Zhao.
In the intelligence economy, the leader who learns fastest leads longest.
Jonas.
Responsible AI is not a technical add-on, it's leadership accountability.
Aiden.
Don't compete with the machine. Design the partnership.
That's the human AI leadership model in a nutshell. Orchestrate intelligence, lead with ethics, stay cognitively flexible, build human AI collaboration, and use simulation to make better calls before the stakes hit the real world. This isn't a trend. It's the next evolution of leadership. The leaders who embrace it will shape the future. And the leaders who resist it will still live in that future, but they won't be the ones shaping it. Thanks to our global panel, Nakel Makima, Dr. Lien Zhou, Maria Alvarez, Jonas Richter, and Aiden Vox. And thank you for listening. Join us next time on the B.I channel, where data meets decisions.